It's the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked On Bulls, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, a show for the most passionate fan base in the NBA.
Covington playing Levine, topside three ball, bam! Onions, baby onions! Zach Levine in the Bulls!
Your number one source for Chicago Bulls news and stories.
Levine to White, this time he gives it to Williams for three. The rookie! The Puma! Oh my goodness, what a shot!
Hosts Jordan Maly and Matt Peck dive into the best Bulls news and stories around the NBA.
It's Jordan Maly. Jordan, great to see you through our 670 score scope. Yep.
Where is he?
And it's right over there, Bill. Are you flat out kidding me?
Matt Peck used to do a great job with the Bulls Outsider Show. Now he's doing Locked On Bulls.
There he is, human floor burn.
Oh, don't mess with the booch.
But watch this crossover. Casper, the friendly ghost.
My goodness.
So kick back,
I'm not.
relax,
I'm not.
and get ready for the best hour of your day.
I'm not.
You can just see the vibe.
And these guys are men.
Locked On Bulls starts now.
I love it. Pass to Levine with a right-handed jackhammer slam. Oh, my goodness, that was filthy.
Here are your hosts, Jordan Maly and Matt Peck.
I'm getting out the dancing shoes.
Into Locked On Bulls, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Jordan Maly. Along with me is Matt Peck. Follow us on Twitter at Jordan C. Maly, at Bulls_Peck, and at Locked On Bulls. Hit us up on our text and voicemail line, 331-979-1369. Drop your text, your voicemails, anything you got for us, 331-979-1369. Today's episode is brought to you by Rock Auto. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the car parts your car will ever need. Go to rockauto.com. Matt, welcome back from the weekend. How are you? We were just talking off mic. Seems like two very, very pointless wins for this Bulls team in terms of where we stand right now. We'll get into that, but how are you? How was your weekend?
Jordan, what's going on, man? What's up, Bulls Nation? I know that I am not the most popular person on Bulls Twitter right now. I know a lot of Bulls fans
missed
are
this.
happy.
Wait, why? Why?
I think because I'm not alone in just saying, hey, look at the math, look at the statistics, and look at the fact that the Bulls in this 3-game winning streak have dropped to a position where they could lose 12% odds at a top 4 pick. And that's it. Plain and simple to me. Math. The Bulls could use a number 4 overall pick. Would certainly be helpful. Would be nice if we could keep that. And I'm just looking at it the simplistic route of, hey, 32% is a lot bigger than 20%. Give me 32%. And Bulls fans are like, but look at the growth. Look how well Coby's playing. Zach and Vooch are gaining some chemistry. Great. Wonderful. To me, I'd rather have the extra chances at a top 4 pick. And it's just not popular to be logically rooting for L's right now instead of being happy for W's.
We got to remember, too, like we've been through this 3 or 4 seasons now rebuilding where in March and April we tend to, I don't know, some fans tend to get fooled by guys and go, like, we were talking about it last week, Walt Lemon Jr. effect, right? Like, oh, shit, Walt Lemon Jr. is putting up 20 points and 6 rebounds, 6 assists a game. Like, should we keep him around as a core piece? Like, those types of conversations happen every single year, Matt, during this time. So,
Wayne Selden, Sean Kilpatrick.
Yes, exactly. So, like, all of those things happen in March. And, like, Nico Mirotic, remember how many times we talked about Nico Mirotic's, like, March Madness? He just decided to go off every March with the Bulls. That being said, I feel like people tend to forget, like, what is the long-term goal? I think the only thing with the Bulls not losing both of these games or not sitting guys like Vooch and Levine, I feel like the league would have caught on. That's something we talked about last week. Like, the league would catch on to that. Like, why aren't you playing your 2 best players? One hasn't played in a month, and it says he's ready to go. Like, why isn't he playing? And also Vooch, like, Vooch probably could get away with, but sitting both of those guys for a nationally televised game, the NBA would come down. I don't know how hard they would come down either.
Right.
But
if who was it? Zion, right? Had a fractured finger that sat him out,
yeah.
And the Pelicans are doing what they can to maybe help their lottery odds right now. There are ways that you can do it without being completely obvious. Or even if it is obvious, you can say, hey, this is on the injury report. What are you going to tell us if it's on the injury report? And look, there is a difference in the Bulls winning games at the tail end of a season where You're not mathematically eliminated yet, but it would take a miracle and actually several miracles to get in. Winning games with your two all-stars who you're building with moving forward as the core pieces, and even a resurgent Coby White back in the starting lineup, playing well, flourishing in his role that I think he should have always been in, which is a guy being a catch-and-shoot threat off the ball. And the third threat after defenses are honing in on Zach and Vooch, and they're building two-man chemistry in their two-man game. So it's better than winning games with Kilpatrick and Selden and the Jakars and the Brandon Sampsons and all the Sampsons and all the G League. At least it's seeing your core guys win when you know that losing would be more beneficial to your team moving into the summer. At least it's that, and not why are we winning games with Selden and Kilpatrick and this guy and that guy.
So I haven't thought about it until now, but do you think that the motivation between the players and the coaching staff is different than maybe what the front office was trying to do here, let's say, over the last 2 or 3 weeks? Like, we never even got really a clear answer on, like, was that the conditioning thing that Zach LaVine had to sit out an extra week? Was that a Bulls thing, or was that an NBA thing?
I don't know. I don't think we'll ever get a clear answer on that one way or the other. The very brief tweet that Zach put up there before it was deleted made it sound like he was blaming the league. Because, he said these protocols are for the birds, or however he phrased it, meaning he wasn't happy with the rules that are in place that weren't allowing him to come back in. Maybe there were a few days, a couple of games in there where he had cleared and the Bulls were saying, let's let you get your conditioning back a little bit before we throw you back out there. But, I don't know if there's any way we'll ever know the answer to that.
So I ask that because if it was a Bulls thing, then it would make it more cut and dry. Is like, hey, the front office had one idea of how they wanted to end this season after Zach had to sit out for the last 3 weeks, and Vooch has been hurt. Look at our schedule. Look at the back end of our last 5 games we've got to play. I think we didn't ever talk about worst case scenario at the end of the season, Matt, and I think we're falling into worst case scenario in terms of short term. Like, what did we get out of this season? I don't think that they predicted the Toronto Raptors to lose 3 in a row and then 3 in a row right as Vooch and Zach came back. But I think we didn't talk about the absolute worst case scenario, and maybe we should have, is that the Bulls fall in this weird window of mediocrity where they don't get a draft pick, but they also miss out on the play-in too. It's like, how many, if you ran through 1,000 different simulations of this, that opportunity or that opportunity, like in 2K, would only come up, 1 or 2 times out of 1,000, and it seems like we're falling into that trap. I don't know. It's very discouraging.
And even if you pull off this miracle and say, the Pacers lose out and you are able to win a few more of these games of the 4 that you have left, and you get the 10, you still got to play that play-in game and win that play-in game. And then, assuming you are the 10, you also have to play the loser of the 7-8 play-in and win that game to then actually make the playoffs for real. Which, again, I'm sorry, I've said this before, these play-in playoff games that aren't really playoff games, we know that Zach wants to make the playoffs. Hasn't ever before in his career, and that's true for a lot of the young guys on this Bulls roster. But if you don't win both of those play-ins and don't actually make the playoffs, I'm sorry, but the value of the play-in playoffs for the experience moving forward, the playoff experience, everybody, it's 1 game, maybe 2. And they're not even real playoff games. It's not a best-of-7 series. Don't talk to me about how valuable that playoff experience is going to be. It's not even a playoff.
Let me just tell you this right now. I saw a tweet over the weekend that said we're lining up to have higher ratings in these play-in games that happen than we are over the NBA Finals over the last couple of seasons, Matt. Like, that's
right.
Like,
well, because look at the Western Conference play-in situation right now, especially. Yeah. It's going to be epic.
If LeBron ends up in the play-in after all of this, it's just going to be so good, man. But that's the thing is, like, if you hate the play-in, I'm sorry, it's here to stay because people are going to be tuned in for chaos. And like you had just mentioned, the Western Conference is chaos right now. But that's the thing. We still have a whole week of games, and there's still a lot that can happen, and we have to continue to pay attention to what the Wizards are doing. But I hate to say it, in a great season and a lot of positivity that's happened this season, Matt, we've fallen into the one worst case scenario. And unfortunately for us, we've won too many games and lost not enough of games, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and you're still 2.5 games behind Indiana with 4 games left to play. And you've got Brooklyn twice, Milwaukee, and then Toronto.
Good luck.
So Toronto's trying to tank. So there's one win if you want it. But is 30 wins going to be enough to catch Indiana, who already have 31? No. That's some pretty quick, simple math for you. If the Bulls finish 1-3 in these last 4 games, they out and have accidentally bumped themselves down two spots in the lottery, which again would equate to losing out on 12% odds at keeping their top 4 pick. And people are so confused as to why I'm rooting for L's right now. And look, just briefly playing devil's advocate, there are a couple of arguments on Bulls Twitter recently, and that my buddy Big Dave has made, ever the optimist, that are legitimate to a degree. They point to, hey, look at the awesome 8-0 bubble run that the Suns made and the momentum that they use that to carry into this season, and look what they've done this season. Okay, sure. 8-0 is not the same thing as a little 3-game winning streak here, and maybe the Bulls finishing 4-4 over their final 8. Whoop-de-doo. They also added a Hall of Fame point guard in the offseason. Maybe that, in addition to the bubble momentum, contributed to this amazing season that they're having. But still, some legitimacy to that. The other argument that I've seen that I think is somewhat valid is the Bulls don't get that top 4 pick. Thus, instead of spending that money on a rookie who has a rookie scale contract that's pretty non-trivial as far as dollars towards the cap, because it is a pick that high, you could instead use that money elsewhere on a veteran quality player. And sure, that player might be able to contribute more meaningfully next season than a one-and-done rookie who's still a little wet behind the ears. 2 arguments for let's see them win that are fine to me. But do they supersede the 12% odds that I'm talking about? Not in my opinion.
Those are valid points, too, if you aren't fully on board with the idea that at some point Zach's got to get playoff experience, and if that matters in terms of the long-term goals of keeping Zach here. If you're thinking about that, I think those are other supplemental arguments that do help. I didn't even think about the possibility of having to structure the rookie contract and that eating into your cap space. So that's pretty smart. I already told you, and I'm still on board, that I thought the Bulls should make it. They should make the play-in. That's been the whole goal the entire season. That being said, again, we just fall in this weird window where I don't think we're going to be in the play-in, and I think our odds at the lottery have significantly dropped over the last 10 days. So I'll say this, I only have a couple of takeaways from both of these games, but the one was to see the Bulls win on national TV, man, was cool. They didn't spotlight the team, I think, as much as I thought that they were going to, especially down the stretch here, and maybe that was just because Zach LaVine's been absent for a month. Had Zach LaVine been playing, I think there would have been more of a big storyline built in. But some of the things that they said about Patrick Williams too, man, I just don't like. JVG, he was trying to make this comp for Patrick Williams, and I'm like, dude, again, it sounds like you've watched one Bulls game and maybe 6 minutes of highlights. Those little things bother me, but again, what do you take away from the national broadcast?
Yeah, I mean, was it cool to hear a Mike Breen bang on a dagger Zach LaVine, step back from the corner? Yeah, that was pretty great. I was talking with, my guys, Big Dave and John, during that fourth quarter Bulls Celtics, thinking, how long has it been since we've seen the Bulls talked about on a national NBA broadcast? I think we had maybe 1 or 2 games earlier this season, but it's been a long time. And certainly not that, A-team caliber kind of broadcast crew, generally speaking. I think there are some things about Jeff Van Gundy that I enjoy as the color guy, and there are some things that annoy me. And I'm with you in that some of his takes on what the Bulls pieces are right now and what they've done were, shall we say, hastily researched by the commentator in this case. But that's not surprising because, again, how many of these national broadcast crews are watching the Bulls earlier this season on a nightly basis or even on a weekly basis? Nobody's been watching the Bulls. So it is what it is. Hopefully, if the league sees the Bulls as a team that might be about to turn the corner finally next season, we'll see some more national games. But for the past 4 seasons after the Jimmy trade, this team has had no reason to be on national television.
Yeah, I think for the most part, the Knicks have sort of stolen that spotlight that I thought the Bulls were going to get this season. Maybe we were 1 year too early. Like, the Knicks have had the success story, like our caller even said late last week. Like, they've had this spotlight and shine that I thought the Bulls were going to get this season, just especially the way things were going early on in the season. When Zach and Thad caught their groove together and they went on I think, what was it, winning 7 of 8 games or like 8 of 10? Right there, right after the first 2 weeks of the season, they had a streak of wins. Regardless, I thought that was the point where I was going to say, okay, I think maybe the Bulls are going to get some shine on some of these broadcasts. We even saw at the All-Star break, Matt, national games being added to the Bulls' schedule. If I'm not mistaken, a couple of those games this weekend are still TBD. I think one or two of those games were set up to be nationally televised games, considering the Bulls still have a shot right now at this point to be in those playing games, and you're playing the Nets and the Bucks too. So that being said, I think the Knicks have stolen a little bit of that spotlight. But you're right. Like, I didn't expect anything big. It's been cool to watch Vooch continuously just eat at the boards, too, if we're talking about X's and O's. He's just a board machine, man. And he's been scoring like crazy, too. So that was good to see. I don't know.
And,
I can't complain when the Bulls win, man.
I mean, being a big market team like Chicago is, and now having 2 All-Stars next season, Zach and Vooch, and especially if the Bulls add a third piece, maybe not a third All-Star, but a third name that's like a name around the league, then you might see them get a significant bump in nationally televised games next season. I would already assume with the addition of Vooch and having 2 All-Stars and you being the Chicago Bulls, we're going to see, I would say, 5 nationally televised games on the schedule right out of the gate next season, if not more. I would hope so anyway. But in the meantime, if that, and that's the other argument I've heard from Bulls fans who are enjoying these wins, if Zach and Vooch, and even throw Coby in there if you want to, are playing this well and building this chemistry and a little bit of momentum in this final stretch of 7 or 8 games, might that draw some eyes of guys who are about to hit the open market this summer and say, now that team, they had a tough year. They dealt with, some key losses.
You don't get to make that argument and lose the play-in. You don't get to make that argument and then not make the play-in. Nope. I'm shutting that down right now.
Thank you. I'm glad that you agree with me on that, because I'm just saying that's an argument I've heard from Bulls fans. Oh, they're going to draw the attention of some, desirable free agents with what? Again, like I said, going 4-3 in your final 7 games, maybe.
We have North Ave Beach. We don't have Atlantic or Pacific Oceans to go when you still suck and you lose 45 or 50 games in a season. Like, that can distract you from bad basketball. We have snowy winters and like 6 days out of the year where you can go out and lay on North Ave Beach. That being said, like, those are the types of things that draw guys in outside of like if you're trying to draw somebody in from a losing franchise. Mm-hmm. Guys aren't coming here just because you won 4 or 5 games at the end of the season and still missed the play-in. Like, I'm with you 100%. No. Like, my argument is valid there if you make the play-in. Then at least you have something. You have something tangible to hold on. It's like, yes, it's only the play-in, but the Bulls haven't made the playoffs in 4 years. It gets you to another step. This does not.
I'm with you, man. It's like. My buddy Zayma always says, it's like no teams actually get free agents. Like, it doesn't happen anymore. Like, star players either demand trades out of where they are and choose their destination while they're in mid-contract. And then there are like 2 teams, maybe 3, that get free agents. It's both LA teams and it's Miami. And it's because Miami is Miami, and not only hey, Miami Beach, hang out here. State taxes? Nope. Compared to Chicago taxes? Yeah. And then LA, Southern California. Wow, it's 70 and sunny every day of the year, every year. And it's LA, it's Hollywood. I could set up all of the other elements of my NBA persona and business career outside of my actual playing here in LA, where all of this Hollywood style business gets done. It's just like, it doesn't matter that Chicago's a big market. It does not matter at all. The allure of, hey, bring this great franchise back to prominence and be the first guy to lead the Bulls to a title since Jordan in the dynasty. No, it means diddly shit.
I mean, especially from like a younger fan base's perspective, like obviously younger fan base has respect for the Jordan thing, but I did have to roll my eyes a little bit when literally coming into the national broadcast, Matt, the first cut is Jordan hitting a game-winning shot. I'm like, they show Jason Tatum hitting game winners and not Larry Bird hitting game winners, yet we get the Michael Jordan treatment from 30 years ago. And I get it, like greatest player of all time.
Because that's all this organization has right now. They have been riding the coattails of Jordan and that 6 championship run for 30 years.
It's a blessing and a curse for sure. The other thing too is it's LeBron too. Like wherever LeBron goes, he basically gets just whoever he wants. So, and if he doesn't get them, he leaves and goes somewhere else. They can get him. It would help if I turn my level up.
Hey.
Does your mind change at all about Coby White over the next over the next couple of weeks, maybe over the next couple of months as we head into the next season? Just seeing how well he's played over the last month. I know it being without Zach, but has it made you contemplate at all, thinking about he can't be the point guard of the future? Have you been tricked by what you've seen over the last month, or do you truly believe that's development?
I wouldn't necessarily say my feelings on Coby White have changed over the last month or so when he got put back in the starting lineup.
How about Bulls fans in general? How about Bulls fans just in general?
I am concerned about what I'm seeing from Bulls fans on Twitter right now talking about Coby White in ways that I think need to be pumping the brakes. Because, look, I don't think we've learned anything new. If anything, I think that we have relearned what I believe I already knew, which is that Coby White, while not a great offense generating, distributing point guard, he's got a high dribble, he's got a loose dribble, he doesn't have great court vision, turnovers are an issue, is a guy who can be lethal when being a catch and shoot threat, playing off the ball, and at times just putting his head down and getting to the rim himself. Those are the things that we have always known Coby can do from his rookie year. That's not different. What is different is that the Bulls in Vooch now have a second guy who's capable of playmaking in addition to being a double team threat himself offensively. So between that and Zach LaVine, Coby has these opportunities where he's not the second guy, he's the third guy. And in a lot of time, being the third guy is just a catch and shoot sniper. And we have seen that as recently as last night where he knocks down 5 threes. You know, he's 5'11" from downtown. He's got 21 points. Great. Take the responsibility of starting point guard off of his shoulders. And, maybe it's a different split of, okay, this is Vooch's usage, this is Zach's usage, and this is Coby's. Do I still want to see AK and Eversley try and find something more resembling of a competent starting point guard for this roster this summer? Yeah, I do. And I don't think I have changed my opinion on Coby White, despite the fact that, hey, he's had this nice bounce back. I'm happy for him. And he's probably, in my opinion, still a piece that the Bulls are worth keeping around for, another season or two of his rookie deal before you have to start worrying about an extension for one Coby White. But no, I mean, it's like Bulls fans who are starting to think that Coby White is having this, reinvention of himself. It's like, no, he's just being allowed to be the best version of himself. We've always known the best version of Coby White.
I think it is fair to say that he has developed in a month, in 6 weeks since Zach has been out, and even I would say post All-Star break. Let's put it there. Post All-Star break, I think there has been some room for improvement. Cowley brought up his defense, and we talked about his defense. He brought it up today on the air, and he said that's been the most surprising development of Coby's game from day in and day out is his effort level on the defensive end. And we talk about that a lot with Zach's defensive improvement this year, at least in the first half. Second half, kind of disappeared a little bit, but he's had the best defensive season he's had in his entire career. And I think that's the same thing with Coby White. Those types of things add up. And you even look at, take away his offense, man. Take away his offense for 2 or 3 years even. I still think that can develop, and that's his main skill. But you're right. I go back to the conversation we had like a week before trade deadline. You and I were going back and forth, trying to pull Bulls fans off the ledge about Coby White. And it's like, just let the guy develop a little bit. He's 21, and you're asking him to be the number 2 star on your team and the secondary scorer, and I just don't think he's ready. It's not that he can't do that. I just don't think he's ready to do that yet. And it's crazy. When you bring Vooch in, who can score 25, 30 a game, and you don't have to have Coby be relied on as that guy next to Zach, it's crazy what things can happen.
Yeah. And again, like, I think the reality that Bulls fans sometimes have a hard time facing is that Coby is a very similar and less good version of our first All-Star, Zach LaVine. He's a shooting guard who, when asked to be a main ball-handling point guard, gets a little overwhelmed, and turnovers are an issue. And he's just a less good version of our very good shooting guard who's an All-Star. And like you said, still, Bulls fans forget, very young. And look how much better Zach has gotten in seasons 5, 6, and 7, and Kobe's only in year 2. He just happens to play the same position as the guy on our team who's an all-star. The other thing that I will say about Coby, when you say you look at the development and you've seen it on the defensive end, I have seen some small glimpses of his decision-making on the offensive end improving in this recent stretch of games, where we used to just slam our heads against a wall saying, how did Coby not see that mismatch that he had? Where, whoever it was, whatever big, Thad, Lowry, now Vooch, Wendell earlier, like, get the mismatch guy the ball. And Coby was just like blinders, didn't even recognize mismatches. You're seeing now, especially with the arrival of Vooch, Coby making better decisions with the ball and being just rudimentary level point guard capable of saying, this is where the ball needs to go on this possession, and not jacking up a bad shot or not turning the ball over because he's trying to do too much himself. Again, it's not a wild improvement that I've seen from him in that regard, but it is a noticeable improvement.
It goes back to trust. Like, you think Coby White can trust Vooch better than he can trust Carter to, hey, pick up a defensive assignment if somebody beats me? Or, hey, you roll to the basket and actually catch the ball and fucking dunk it? Like, those are things
and
that Coby
use
doesn't
your
have to worry
size,
about
unlike
anymore.
Lowry.
Yes. Yes, not just to beat up on Carter, but, like, seriously, we know Carter and marketing can do that, but can they do that consistently to the point where your point guard doesn't have to worry every time he throws you a bounce pass on a pick and roll that you're going to fumble it or that you're just going to get it and lay it in? You've done it a million times, and he could do that with an all-star like Vooch. To your point, he can't do that consistently with guys like Carter and Markkanen, who've been next to him for the better part of a year and a half. Right. Those are all good points, man. And, like, that's part of developing, too, is you've got to go through some of these struggles. Again, I will continue to say this. Let Coby develop. Let's not destroy Coby the way that we destroyed Markkanen over the last couple of years. And granted, we put a lot of pressure on that dude, and that dude set high expectations for himself in year 1.
And he did that to himself. He made the all-rookie first team, okay? Like, that. If you don't follow that up with more improvement and that trajectory, then expect to get dragged by fans who expected more from you.
Correct. 100%, man. And, like, when you're showing that you can put up 20 and 10 and then all of a sudden that disappears for a month, 6 weeks, it's like, I don't blame people for being critical of Lowry. That being said, let's let Coby and Patrick Williams too. This is going to be something with Patrick Williams next year, Matt. It's going to be the Coby treatment where year 2, we got to kill our sophomores for some reason. Let's be patient.
I saw Bulls fans last night even say, like, Patrick Williams, what do you have, 4 points, only took a couple of shots.
Who cares?
Zach had 30, Vooch had 29, Coby had 21. What are we complaining about here?
It's not 2K. It's not 2K where Zach goes and gets 50 and Patrick Williams can get you 25. Like,
right. Yeah. 3 of our starters combined for 80 points. And we're complaining that our rookie 19-year-old starter had an off night. It's like, come on, guys.
I will take that any day of Zach Kobe, Vooch combining for 70, 80 points a night and see Patrick Williams drop 5 points. Like, I'm okay with that for right now, at least.
Sure.
But yeah, let's be patient with Coby White. And I'm interested to see what they do this summer. I still feel like phone calls will be happening over the summer about him. And it might just be like baseline level interest from other teams. It's like, hey, if you want to make a deal, what would Kobe cost? Like, I think those conversations are still going to be very much had this summer if they were happening at the deadline. That being said, Matt,
playoff teams that need some scoring punch, maybe off their bench, looking for that six-man type, the Jamal Crawford, the Lou Williams, the Ben Gordon, that Kobe looks like a young version of, who still has several years of team control on a rookie scale contract. I think plenty of teams in the league who need a player like that would be interested in Kobe.
Teams who are trying to rebuild on the fly, like teams that don't have first-round draft picks or haven't had a lot over the last couple of years, don't have a lot of cap space either. I think that makes a ton of sense, man. So with that, hit us up, though. 331-979-1369. It's the last week of Bulls basketball. Still technically in it as far as like the play-in goes until further notice. Give us your thoughts, though. You want to talk about the offseason. How do you feel about this season as a whole, as a Bulls fan? Just do you feel a little disappointed? Are you okay with where they stand overall collectively from where we started in December to where we are now? Anything. 331-979-1369. Text messages, voicemails, anything you got for us. We're on Twitter at Jordan C. Maly, at Bulls_Peck, and at Locked On Bulls. 331-979-1369, our text and voicemail line. For Matt Peck, I'm Jordan Maly. Bulls Nation, have a wonderful day. Be back tomorrow with a fresh episode. For Jordan and Matt, we are out. Deuces.